software-defined networks, but most of the people here around, I don't think they would be interested in knowing this, because actually I have a presentation which is very, very technical, and I don't want to just even open that presentation. Only a couple of guys here would be interested. I would give you this presentation if you have to look at. Basically, everybody knows about virtualization. So, is there anybody who doesn't know about virtualization? I would like to just briefly tell you what virtualization is. Today, as he said, he has 2 PCs in his home. Actually, I have 1 PC in my home, and it's been virtualized to 7 different operating systems. So, if I have to try an operating system, I will just download an operating system and just run it on a virtual machine and test it. Earlier those days, we used to have labs in our home. Remember, we used to have a couple of PCs in our home where we need to set up a network, try different operating systems. So now these days have gone. Earlier those days, we used to walk into any office, we had something called a server room. We have a server room, and that was a holy place where everybody used to go and pray. Because the server was running the full company. Yeah. Today, if you walk into any big company, you don't find a server room, they disappear. And if you ask them a question, where are the server rooms? They say, they're on the cloud. I mean, this concept is already there everywhere in the other parts of the world. I'm not sure what's happening here, because here to get 1 MB internet is still a struggle. Whereas in my home, I have a 60 Mbps connection, and I'm never find difficulty in doing anything. I have to download Red Hat, or I have to download this thing. I don't keep copies. Before I used to burn CDs and keep. Now I just download it. Then on BitTorrent it takes in 10 minutes you can get 4 GB file. So internet is never a problem for us, for me as concerned. But when I come to Goa, the first thing I struggle is internet. And I'm crying for internet every time, because my friend was telling me, some time back I had an offer to work from home, nice American company. And the first thing I tried to explore is internet. And they had online labs and everything where we had to do testing and all stuff. Internet was not there. And in 16, I went to BSNL to inquire the price, and they said 5 lakh rupees an annum for a 20 Mbps connection or something. That is ridiculous. Doesn't make sense. So that is one thing which is missing here. And cloud computing, which is the latest thing everybody talks about now, is in thing. Now, what is virtualization? Virtualization is, earlier we used to have servers. We used to buy, for example, if you want to have a mail server, we used to buy a server. If you want to have a proxy server or any other server, we used to buy servers. Today we don't buy servers. Today we have something called, we have a Blades, wherein we just virtualize it. I mean, we use beautiful virtualization software, all fundamentally belonging to Linux. There are some which are Windows built also, or hypervisor, I believe.
Yeah,
hypervisor is...
Hypervisor is the name of generally...
Yeah.
General name for...
I don't know, there's something called hypervisor in Windows, but VMware, which is the king in, which is the leader in virtualization.
Hyper-V.
Hyper-V, yeah. Zen and so many things, open source. Also, Oracle has one. Now, virtualization is like you have one machine, okay, and wherein you just install the hypervisor as a name. It's a generic term. Yeah. Okay, we install the hypervisor and then we install the operating system on the top end. So that is there's something called hardware abstraction layer, okay, which talks to the hardware. Like you have a Java language.
Is there something comparable to VMware available in Linux?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's free.
And faster.
Wonderful.
And even VMware is free, I believe. The hypervisor is a free in VMware, but VMware has given you much additional features. For that matter, VMware is built on Linux. I mean, the VMware software runs, it's on Linux, built on Linux. But they have proprietary, they made proprietorship because they have done a lot of coding. Today, if you walk into any equipment, I mean, most of the equipment in telecom industry, especially all over Linux. I was just telling them when I entered here, we talked about telecom. And he asked me, what are you doing? I'm in telecommunications. So before we had telecommunication engineers. Now, everything is computer engineers. There's no more telecommunications. There's nothing called PDH, SDH is almost going out. I mean, there is no fundamental telecommunication left. It's IP now. Everything. I mean, I'm not sure about what's happening in BSNL in India, but if you go abroad, even your land phones work on IP phones. They are IP phones. So everything is on IP. So there's nothing called telecommunication. Gone. So where was I? I was talking about virtualization. Right, are you clicking photograph or recording?
Recording.
No.
Don't say the wrong thing. So tomorrow we can catch you if you say anything.
Yeah, because if I say something wrong, you can edit. It will
Edit.
haunt you after 10 years, what you said. So, we talked about virtualization is a PC, okay? It's a server class hardware where you can have multiple guest operating systems installed on the top of it. And, if you, for example, want to install a Windows server, you can also install on the same virtual machine. There's something called hardware abstraction which takes place. There's a virtual hyper-based FISA which talks to the hardware. Okay. Now the same concept is there in networks. Today we have something called networks, but networks never had something called virtualization. Actually, I attended some leading networking manufacturers like Huawei, Cisco, Juniper, all those things. They talked about the roadmap. And this year's roadmap, everybody is talking about NFV, that is network function virtualization and software-defined networks. Now, what is a software-defined network? Now, for example, it is exactly similar to virtualization. But now people will have questions: how will that work? I mean, what type of hardware will it use? So what they're going to do is they are going to build switches which are based on something called a technology called OpenFlow, which is the switches will only take care of forwarding packets, but the control panel. The software-defined network is divided into two planes. We have a data plane and we have a control plane. And the control plane which will do all the controlling of the switching mechanism, and the data plane is where the actual data will go. So they are going to lift the control into server class hardware where you will be controlling everything from the server. So the type of hardware we're going to use is we're going to use switches from OpenFlow, running OpenFlow. Now if you buy a switch in the market, it's coming bundled with the control panel, the control plane, the data plane, everything, management, everything into one. So you have a firmware. And the problem with this is, like, if you want to do any changes, you cannot do it because we are stuck with the same. And remember, the open source foundation started. The whole reason was Fred must be knowing, because we had we were privileged to have the founder of open source, Mr. Stallman.
Don't call it open source, you won't like it.
Yeah,
Free software.
Sorry.
Free software.
Yeah, because he doesn't like that word open source. He is having totally different mentality. We were privileged to have him here, and he told us this story that he started open source because
Free software.
Free software movement, because before it was called open source.
No.
Eric Raymond was working with him, and then Eric Raymond went away, and then they founded.
After they split, then the name open source came. Anyway, that's
okay,
matter of
whatever.
detail.
So
He founded the free software because of the printer.
And the reason why he founded it is he was not able to make solve the printer jam problem, because and he knew how to do it, but he couldn't do it because of the software was closed. And he went to Xerox Corporation, who had done this, and they refused to give him the software, and that really led to this movement called free software out of the GNU. Same thing is happening actually in switches now. Now, if we are buying switches and a big network, we are buying switches from Cisco, Juniper, so many people we're buying switches, and the problem is happening is like scalability is a big issue. We cannot add features, and we have to depend on even if you see the market today, many of the companies are giving switches running Linux. Okay, but they are not giving the software. Now, if you look, remember when those old days we used to talk about after 15 years from now, everything will be running Linux. Our refrigerators will run Linux. Our microwave ovens will run Linux. And that is a reality now. It's already done. Now if you go anywhere, you see your TV, smart TV is running Linux, everything is running Linux. So we were right actually, Fred. And 15 years back, right? We talked about this and our prediction has come correct. Right now everything is running Linux, but the way we thought it would be is not there. Today Samsung TVs run Linux or any other commercial refrigerators and all those run Linux, but we cannot really modify the software if you want to. I mean, they have made it proprietorship, they have closed everything, and though it is running Linux, we cannot touch it. Same thing is happening with even other switches in the market which are running Linux, but we cannot do anything. Now, software-defined network, which is bringing every networking company into one place, and they want to make it like the main switches or the networking components like routers, firewalls, everything would be standardized on something called open flow technology, FlowWiser and open flow, where they would be talking via the management interface. Okay, they will have a control plane which will run all this forwarding. And I have a presentation actually. I actually supposed to give the presentation, and there is no facility here for presentation. So what I would do is basically, yeah, I would email it to you, or I will.
We'll take the mails of everyone.
So that is one thing actually. Okay, I'll come. So, am I clear about giving the basic fundamental knowledge, or?
But for those who have come knowing you and expecting something more, could you go a little bit into the technology, what your presentation would say, so maybe they won't be disappointed.
It sounds like you're talking more about Internet of Things and how to have a kind of framework where all the devices can talk to each other. Is that?
If I show you the diagram, it will be more interesting.
Yes.
Sure.
Please do.
Sorry, I'm using iPad. Before it was a curse to use anything other than Linux. And I'm using PowerPoint. I love it. Do we have a projector on it?
Other day I saw a projector this much, and the entire thing was running on Linux. Because I saw the directory structure and other things which you are doing. So normally what you do is your presentation of all pieces, it directly projects it from the USB. It doesn't require any connection.
So basically we have something like specialized packet forwarding hardware, okay, and we have an operating system, and there are apps on the top of it, apps like routing software or whatever. And everybody is aware that here there is millions of lines of source code and RFCs and all that stuff. So what they are going to do is, I'm just going to tell you exactly what happens in one nice. So this is like a switch here. Okay, you have a this is like a normal virtualization server wherein you have a hardware here and your virtualization layer, and on the top you see guest operating system. On the top of that, application system. In software-defined networks, okay, you have everybody can see this. There are apps on the top, and the network operating systems are here, and the virtualization of slicing layer, which is called FlowWiser here, and the actual hardware layer which will be down here, okay, with something called OpenFlow, and the communication between there will be through something called OpenFlow.
So what you're saying is that each software requires a separate operating system to run it, and that's what you're creating, like a separate environment for each software to run, and then you are...
See, you know about virtualization. Have you got an idea about what is virtualization? Right.
Yeah.
Virtualization is like you have hardware independence. You don't have a hardware. You have something called abstraction layer. Okay. connected to the hardware. On the top of the hardware, okay, you have operating system. We call them guest operating systems. On the top of that, there are applications, actual applications. So how do we do this in networks? Okay, for example, a switch. A switch is an independent device, okay, and a network consists of a group of switches, okay, interlinked, or a group of switches, routers, or firewalls, or all networking devices. So how do we do it virtualization for this type of things? Because it is not so easy. So what they have found out is something called open source. This actually technology is not available in the market except for some campuses in the world. I'm not sure about any professional company has done it. It's in the roadmap in 2015, 2014, quarter 4. It's in the roadmap for Huawei. Huawei said that it's in their roadmap for network function.
So there's no operator using it right now.
No, nobody's using it right now. This is just an idea. And
concept.
I
it's a
think
concept.
OpenStack supports software-defined networking. So the underlying, the code is already there in
Code is already there. Some campuses have already implemented it as just research. I mean, not in production. R&D stage. This is going to come in next 2 years. What we are talking about is now today still Cisco is dominating, Huawei is dominating. Huawei you must have not heard in India, but
No, Huawei
It is
here with all the operators,
Yes,
right?
but actually in India they are completely banned. I mean, telecom companies cannot use Huawei.
No, but they are.
To be very frank with you,
Security another reason.
No, there was a time. Last
were-
year there was a time. After that they opened it up again. Like ZTE,
No, but
BPL
actually-
used to use ZTE.
actually Huawei means actually in Chinese it means rule the world, and their intention actually is to rule the world. Today, all countries telecommunication is the main part of everything.
Backbone net.
And if they are running Huawei things, maybe something goes back to them. They are spying on us. They are doing something on us. So the US is
company can also do the same.
yeah, it's the same thing. They are doing it, of course.
Two years ago, this Tata was using one. Okay.
No, but I know that India there is a
I had
law.
that. I had that, and then now that
No, you're right. Maybe they are using it as a CPE, as customer premise equipment, not on the core. Core mobile networks, core DWDM networks, they will not permit Huawei. As per in Indian laws.
BSNL backbone is built by
Built by?
Huawei.
No.
Yes.
Because I believe that they're banned in India.
No.
They're not.
No, they're banned, but you know the cost factor which is there. I was in BPL when they were trying to shift out, working with them for some project. They were trying to pull them out and then little bit ZTE, but the cost factor is where they find really the...
Because I read some of them back in Times of India that they said that Huawei is not supposed to.
2010, beginning 2010 is when all these guys were trying to phase out the Chinese guys.
It's not cheap. It's actually free. Huawei comes to any telecommunication company and says, okay, use our network. They give you everything and they say pay us monthly. They don't pay us at the time. So this is how they penetrated into the European market, American market. And even places where they cannot sell, they have sold it. For example, Iran they cannot sell, but they have sold it through Canadian companies. So now they go as Canadians to Iran and sell Huawei products. So this is very funny. I mean, they are actually penetrated almost the entire world. They are the leaders in, especially in telecom market.
But hardware, they are also good. You cannot deny it. It's like the Southeast, full of Southeast Asia. Like how South Asia is good in software. These guys, they play around with any hardware. You go to Singapore, you go to any of these places, Malaysia. They have a God-given gift to interpret it to you. Now, how do you beat them at their game? Unless you can technologically beat them, we cannot grumble.
You're right, actually. If you go to anywhere in Europe or Middle East, the telecommunication network runs on Huawei. And if we say it's not good, we're lying to ourselves. And this thing runs good. But they are not, actually in American products or Canadian products, just study. They don't need engineers to pack them. So what Huawei does is give you equipment along with engineers. So 4 or 5 Chinese people will be along with the equipment. So they are managing the store. I mean,
And Indian also, my friends work in it in Navi Mumbai, they work it. There's a huge setup of Huawei there.
because wherever Huawei starts,
They are like North Indians. They are good at hardware, not in the software. Probably.
no, we are all wrong actually. Chinese were now nobody can say they are not good in software. They are also very good in software.
Of course.
They have picked up. 10 years back, we could have said that. I actually worked in China for some time. Not China, I worked in Taiwan for some time. And we were developing that time, and we used to find real fun. Is the Chinese engineer used to sit with two books of translation. And for us, it is much easier, get a computer, read and do the things. But a Chinese guy used to use a translator, and how the hell he used to manage, God alone knows. I mean, they were translating and they used to manage to get things done. And there was time. But now, you see Chinese people, they speak Chinese English and they are doing good.
And what do they write their code in?
Of course, in English.
English.
Not English. So, the whole concept of China not being good is gone now. I mean, you get
Yeah, people will catch up.
especially the all Apple equipment are manufactured in China. Actually, it's written on the back of Apple iPhone. Designed in California, but
Made in
manufactured
China.
made in China.
Foxconn.
It's become actually a curse. Anybody thinks made in China. No, I want a Korean make. If somebody is selling a Chinese car, I say, no, I want a Korean make or a Japanese make. But they don't want Chinese.
It's supposed to be German, but it's manufactured in China.
What is it?
You're performing later today?
See, what exactly is happening here? See, here you see individual pieces of devices. So what happens in SDN is, see, this layer of operating system has come up. Okay, so it's come on the central place. So this is actually a brief thing of what exactly happens in the applications and the operating system come up. Only the forwarding plane is down there. So the data is here, the control plane is there. So this is the basic idea of what happens in the application.
So basically the software-defined network is dumb hardware where most of the logic is basically sitting in the cloud.
Correct. Do you know about Wi-Fi? Anybody knows about Wi-Fi? Wi-Fi, how Wi-Fi networks are designed? Okay, in your home you have a Wi-Fi router. What happens in Wi-Fi router? This is the best example I can give. What happens in Wi-Fi? Is you have a router. Okay. The Wi-Fi code is also in the router. The netting function is there. The routing function is there. Everything is there. Single standalone. So we call this a Wi-Fi thick access point. There's something called, if you go to enterprise setup Wi-Fi, you have something called thin access point, wherein there is a controller sitting behind and hundreds of access points are outside. So those access points are dead, thin access points. They don't have anything. So you just plug them. The moment you plug them, the controllers, they come to the controller. It says come to mama. So the controller is their mama. So the controller gives them every configuration, even the SSID, even the signal, the RF parameters, what is required. Everything is programmed to the controller. So this is exactly the same idea what software-defined network we are talking about. The switches and routers and firewalls, everything. So where the controller will be controlling the entire thing. As an example, if you have a firewall, okay, you have a big network, okay, huge network, and when you want to make a rule in the firewall, you have to go to the firewall, set up a rule. But this rule are again static. Though they are dynamic in nature, you can program it from your iPad or iPhone, but still they are static. Okay, you have to send it to that rule to your firewall. In software-defined network, okay, this scenario is going to totally change. Okay, you will sit in your computer and the rules will be so dynamic that at one time, for example, if you want to pass a traffic of port 80 and second time you don't want to, some particular instance you don't want to. So you can have this type of granularity in configuration to your switches, your network topology.
I mean, something similar used in throttling torrents by some ISP.
Correct. No, but this throttling torrents is done by ISPs. Right now, what we do is, as an ISP, we have something called DPI, Big Packet Inspection. Okay, so it is not exactly software-defined network; it's something different. So the DPI constantly monitors the traffic, application-wise. So when there is a bandwidth available, so they will not do anything. The moment the bandwidth starts squeezing, so what they will do, they will start sending rules to the firewalls and the control proxies to block that. It's done dynamically, but it is lot user intervention is required for some matter because we cannot control this fully. We cannot depend on the logic fully.
Isn't this like some disadvantage to user?
No, but this is business. This is business. I mean, if every BitTorrent user starts hogging the bandwidth, because you see the contention ratio for telecoms today. If you look at telecoms, we have something called fiber to the home. And
What do you mean?
Goa, we can talk.
No, they're talking about Reliance Jio and all is coming. I mean, just give it time and it will happen.
So in fiber to the home, actually you have 1 giga capacity in your home. Now, big telecommunications for BSNL, I'm not sure about. I can tell you about SSL. We have around 290 giga international bandwidth. Okay, that is comprising of something called peering partners and actual we purchase bandwidth. It is very, very expensive. So contention ratio. So each house has 1 giga connection. Okay. Or say for example 100 MB connection, which is normal for normal residents. They give 30 Mbps, 20 Mbps. This is normal for them. Now if you have, what will be the contention ratio? 290 giga is the actual internet bandwidth. And each house, having 30 Mbps. So contention ratio will be 10:1. So it depends on the contention ratio. So telecommunication companies, if they start as a BitTorrent guy, okay, you will if I give you 30 Mbps pipe, okay, you're going to hog the full 30 Mbps because BitTorrent is not going to one server.
No, certainly.
It is going to hundreds of peers. So all peers, they will communicate separately and you get you start hogging the full 30 Mbps pipe, which is actually not good for telecommunication companies to.
But it's bad for the country.
It's not bad. You're as per your agreement. If you suppose you make an agreement that you will get 30 Mbps, then you should get it. But what agreement you make is something we call it best effort. So if it's available, you will get it. If it's not available, not.
This is bandwidth shaping.
They are doing bandwidth shaping, yes. They have to do bandwidth shaping, otherwise they can't survive.
I think there was some many controversy about this uTorrent because uTorrent introduced that uTorrent transport protocol. People are downloading torrent here, they will be familiar with the UTP time. There was talk about similar thing, bandwidth shaping and how to circumvent bandwidth shaping.
Actually, this is something happening at the different layers. Bandwidth shaping, if you're doing at layer 7, you could do bandwidth shaping at layer 7 to layer 1 also. So there is, for example, the device on your router in your home is 110 Mbps pipe, okay, full pipe. Or on the telecom communication side, when you make a PPP OE connection or whatever, what you are doing here in India? So that time you are connecting to something called a BRAS server, which is called broadband remote access server. So there it is doing the bandwidth shaping for you. There is the pipe is defined, the profile is defined for you that you can transmit only 1 MB, 2 MB. So even if you circumvent it, that pipe is the maximum. I mean, you make a VPN, you make a tunnel, it will be inside that. You cannot go outside that. So you cannot circumvent it. It is not possible.
But you can disguise the bandwidth easily.
No, you cannot. Because for them, they see the pipe. Internally, what you do is they don't care. They will give you 1 MB.
No, as in the package. If you're using it, using the deep package inspector, if your packets are encrypted, you can go certain VPN services provide.
See, deep packet inspection does not go into encrypted stuff. Only now there are something new which is coming called, you heard about SSL-COM, wherein they are doing, if you go to Russia and start using internet, China use internet, and you are going to Bank of America or ICICI Bank, you don't see ICICI Bank certificate, you see something else. So that means somebody is there in between. So they are trying to take your traffic, see what you are doing, and then they are making a separate tunnel to the bank. And in India it is a crime actually. I don't know. I was told that even India they are doing it.
No, their laws itself justify that because they have certain censorship rules. Maybe. Whereas in India it's supposed to be a free and open environment.
But India also they are going, because today if you look at computer science, telecommunication and law enforcement agencies, they are I watched one series of Crime Patrol, which is very interesting. And you see, 85% of the cases are solved by telecommunications.
Triangulating your mobile phone.
So this law enforcement agencies and telecommunication companies are the key for catching any crime. So if need be, I mean, if India says that okay, we don't want, we want to see everything which is happening, we cannot do anything about it. And India is in line to do that. What we call it SSL bomb, which is they will intercept all the SSL traffic. Because SSL is something which nobody can see right now. Okay, so you make a tunnel and you talk to servers which nobody can see, deep packet inspector or anybody cannot see it. Unless you drop the traffic there and then you send it to a different channel. So then they will analyze what you say. So
create a dump.
Which means your bank documents and your bank transactions are open to telecommunications companies. They can see what your password, they can see your money.
Unless you use Tor.
Unless you use what?
Even the NSA.
Tor.
Yeah,
Tor.
So this makes Snowden's leaks even more relevant.
Talking about Tor, now if I could interrupt, I had a chance of meeting Jake Applebaum here. And I actually interviewed him with a very shaky camera and things like that. Anytime if his computer laptop is away from him for more than 20 minutes, he gets rid of the laptop. He's paranoid, absolute paranoid. But he has reason to be.
I think even Stallman was paranoid. You don't record this, huh?
Yeah, Stallman, Netisala, don't record all that, man.
No. Stallman has a in-principle objection to identification. So if someone in the restaurant tells him, sir, we need your identity documents.
Not in restaurant, Mandavi Hotel.
Mandavi Hotel, no, Nova Goa. He'll make a big issue out of it. He may mention.
It's an international law. You go to any hotel and check-in, they ask you for your identification. And
But on principle, he's objection. On principle, he'll give it, but he'll object.
And he had, there was questions being asked to him that, okay, if everything is free, then how would we make money? He said, I don't care. Okay, only this people like Stallman can get money for just giving a talk or something. What about us? Nobody will pay us for that.
No, what he's saying really is that there is another vision, there is another possibility. And very honestly, now I'll tell you, most people in journalism will tell you it's not possible. I've survived on freelancing because of it. That's a different issue, but...
So you are exception. Like
No. It's a question of faith, no. You need faith in it.
Actually, what Stallman's way of, his ideologies were totally confusing.
Counterintuitive.
Yeah, so
Very counterintuitive.
You cannot stick to it fully. And what Eric Raymond and people have done is they have gone out of it and they've started something called open source, which is making more sense. Even OSPL and open source, they make more sense actually for business, and actually they have what I was telling you is that every device now runs, as John Shaw also said, that some of the projectors is running Linux, but technically we cannot modify it or
They close Linux.
Yeah, it's closed.
Yeah.
Now if you go to Bangalore, you go to many of the companies, they come to us and they bring Linux based stuff, like for example a Wi-Fi code which is fully based on Linux, provisioning softwares or all this type of things, okay, and they sell this software just Linux based, HTTP based, Apache based or whatever. They sell it for millions of dollars. And now I remember when I just joined, a Canadian company came to us and we have something called SIP devices, POTS and around 50,000 of them, and they want to program it automatically. So just connect it and parameters need to go in. As a telecommunication, every house it is installed, and it's impossible to go to every house and keep track of the changes. So we need a system wherein we will send the configuration to Linksys devices. And we had a Canadian company which came to subscribe a demo and blah blah blah, and they said $2 million for the software. And I thought, it is just Apache server, that's it. You know, Apache, DHCP and a small little front end, for them it's an overnight hack to make that screen and get it done.
GPL. The basic idea was that if it is once open, it should remain open, but many people are closing it and there is nobody to take them to court. Nothing is happening. Except that one or two cases in Germany, some cases were there where they were taken to court, but most of the cases this is illegal. Actually, if it is an open source, we have taken it has to remain as open source.
Now I will tell you, many of the some people there are saying that they are startups and they are doing businesses. Now what if this guy makes a core for Wi-Fi and says this is open source? I mean, he will be on the road. Nobody will pay him for anything. The concept here is not there. If you go to America, I mean, he does something in open source and he can survive. But here, people are not sincere. First of all, people will take your software, they will modify, and they will. I met one of the guys who's founder of OpenNMS. Okay, his name is Thomas Pollack. I had invited.
NMS means?
Network Management System, and it's OpenNMS is one of it's open source based. And if you look, he was telling me that many Indian companies have copied his software and they have changed his name and they are selling it. And he can't do anything. He tried to come to India to sue them, and Indian courts didn't understand what he was talking about, and he was going around and around. He asked me if they can help him. He said no. They're stealing our software, and this is the fact. Nobody can change it. As young startups, I also was doing the same thing. We started doing thin clients, and we wanted to make it open source, and then
that's how I first met you.
Yeah.
You were in and out of the room within 15 minutes. You gave a product demo and you walked out. You were at GCI. This was more than a decade ago.
15 years ago.
Yeah.
One of those seminars, no?
Yeah, one of the seminars.
With George Eso and all.
GCI, I can't remember.
George Eso.
One of the few and the other guy.
Amit Shirodkar. He is supposed to come here.
Where is he?
He was
I think Automatron is one of his.
What?
He has that whole his
he-
company is Automatronics. Now he
Yeah,
will
where's
do all
George
this.
Eso? The units, one question
Bangalore.
about SDN. About the time. And see, because switches, the number one selling point was time, as well as security. Because the entire thing was
Time in a sense?
switching times.
Okay.
See, because now your
A very good question actually.
network
What you
OS
said.
is now going to be out of the hardware part, right?
Correct.
Okay, so how do you control that part?
See, basically this is a very good question what you said is efficiency, hardware efficiency. Today, first of all, they are saying that the control panel, control plane is out of but the data is still down there. Okay, so actual flow of packets will be down in the data plane, not in the control plane. Control is out. So only the control control mechanism will come. So if there is something to, some routing decision has to be taken or some new routes has to be pushed, it will be pushed on the data plane. So they are totally out. Okay, so they have intelligently designed that the control pane goes out and the data is down there.
So now all the hardware vendors are supporting open source.
The Big Switch has started, Juniper has started, Cisco has started. They're in development phases. But today it becomes a de facto as per ITU, the International Telecommunication Union. They are going to make it standardized that each and every network component should be supporting open source. And one of the biggest mess happened is today if you are a hardcore networking guy, you would see that Cisco is always trying to make its own protocols. But
It's buying smaller companies.
yes, and they make own. They are routing protocols. They want to make their own. Everything they want to make do of their own. So these things don't really work well. Today even routing protocols you see now they have all gone to standardization because Cisco is not only ruling the network segment now. Now there are Huawei, there's Juniper. There are so many other companies which are switched. Now they have to work in some standardized open protocols which
So which of these big companies is close to breaking this SDN into mainstream?
now they have to do it. Everybody has to do it.
Yeah, but who is the one who is closest? Juniper?
Juniper is doing it. Huawei is doing it, surprisingly. And there is one company called Big Switch. Okay, they have designed the first switch which is based on open flow. So there are some.
Any Indian startups in this space?
I'm not sure because this is very new for me also. Because I got introduced to it. I have not seen it live working also myself. I got introduced to it maybe last year or something, and it is very interesting. So I started reading about it.
So this is going to play a bigger role in the connected home, right?
Yes. It is basically going to play a bigger role in enterprise networks. Small networks, not a big issue still now. I mean, you are having a router for 5 years, you are using the router, you change your PCs, you change your computers, you change your laptops, you change everything, but your router remains the same. There is scalability is not a big issue, but for telecommunication companies, it's a big issue. Yesterday, 1 MB, 5 years back, 3 MB, 2 MB was okay. Now, people are asking 30 Mbps, so it's a huge shift. So, for them to change their entire hardware is big investments. So, that is why they want to standardize. That is where the experiment will be.
Okay, since you're working in telecom, what would you say is the #1 challenge right now in the telecom, in the technical space?
IPv6. Today we know that, everybody is aware here that 1980s IPv4. We are using that. Everything has changed. Operating system has gone haywire. Things have changed. But the protocol of communication, that is IPv4, is still the same since the 1980s. And we are ashamed to tell that we are still using IPv4. And everybody is struggling.
This is their exhausted now.
And for your information, as he said, is correct. IPs are exhausted. No, IPv4 has only 4 billion IPs. And